What you want to set off this time, or can't you tell us?
What? No, hello, I'm not actually on a set this time.
Oh, right.
No, I'm not actually on a set. This is another.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that this week is coming to you from the bar area of the Solihull Arden Club, which is a tennis club. I mean, this is just really weird. It's kind of like I'm doing a little bit of a tour. My name is Tosin, and I am your host of the show, and I am based up in the Midlands, as you might guess, seeing as I'm in Solihull. And joining me on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hiya.
So, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. I've come back off holiday, so I had a real bonus. I'm just going to tell you real quickly, just so I'm in.
Yep.
I was 12:30 flight in the afternoon. I was due on. They were desperate for people because they wanted some people and it was overbooked to go standby. I said, "What will you give me?" They said, "Well, we'll put you up in a hotel for the afternoon. We'll give you food. We'll get you out on the 9:30 flight, and we'll give you €600."
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So yeah, so that was quite nice. So yeah, so that's what I did. So I ended up watching. I went and watched a bit of the rugby at the hotel.
Yeah.
Had some dinner, and then I went out and watched Lawrence of Arabia because it was the only thing really on the hotel room TV. So there you go. And then I went off and caught the flight. Off I went.
Yeah, nice one.
So that's me.
People always tell me those stories, and it never happens to me. I never. I think the one time
I'm a lucky guy, Toes. I think.
I think the one time it actually happened where there was a possibility of going on standby. We were flying out for a wedding, and my wife was like, "No way are we dicing with this thing." And I was like, "Oh, but standby, give us money." But I never get to do it. But good to have you back, Sean. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Were you out at an orphanage again or something like that?
Yeah, and I did actually go to see one of our movies tonight while I was over there.
Oh, all right, cool.
Oh,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Sean, while you were out there, was this another trip with the orphanage?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, we don't have that much time today, but one of these days you're gonna have to tell us more about that.
Okay, yeah, I will another time.
Yeah. So now this is going to be one of those shows where we've taken a break and we've just come back. And whenever we take a break and we come back, I think we haven't recorded a new podcast for 2 weeks. I mean, the last couple of weeks we've been giving you either interviews with Superfan Nina last week or the week before where we just forgot about putting anything up. But whenever we have one of these things, we come back and it's a glut of things that we have seen. So at the moment we have 5 movies that we've seen over the past 2 weeks and 4 things on Netflix.
Can't hear it.
Hello?
yeah, we're here.
Okay, cool.
So we
Yeah.
have had a bumper viewing session.
Yeah, we've had loads of viewing sessions.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to come back next week and talk about this because we really actually don't have time to talk about the fact that nowadays, our show is called Netflix vs. Cinema, and we have like a confluence because we have Martin Scorsese, who is at the moment advertising, or he's doing all the press stuff for The Irishman, which is going to be coming out on Netflix. Most people who are going to see this are going to see this on Netflix, and he said a very contentious thing in the while where he's talking
about the Marvel stuff,
about the Marvel movies, saying that they are not cinema, and that is a big juicy piece of meat that we don't have time for right now. But we will get stuck into that next week. And see what we think. See, as we're talking about Netflix versus cinema. When we say versus cinema, what are we talking about? Are we not allowed to talk about Marvel movies anymore? We will find out. We will see. But shall we launch right into this? Into this. And let's kick off in cinema. Let's kick off with a film that I know that we've all seen, and the film that I think like it's a big noise, shall we say? And that is Terminator: Dark Fate.
Yeah, Terminator: Dark Fate. This was the one that I saw in Thailand.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought so.
Do you know what? It works really good. I think it's great over there because I went. It was a lovely cinema, and they have the trailers between adverts, so you didn't get like a whole mass of adverts, which people never come over here. So you had trailer, advert, trailer, advert, trailer, advert, trailer.
Yeah.
Can you please stand for the national anthem of our king? So you stand for the national anthem, and then the film starts. They used to do that over here, I believe.
You used to start the national anthem at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
So.
And everyone used to run before the national anthem, so they didn't have to stand still.
So that was an experience. So it was great. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The experience, the film. We might have to talk about that a bit later. But anyway.
Well, yeah, the experience of watching a film in Thailand. I remember I did that once, and I was with a friend, and when it came, she was like, "Get up!" I was like, "What?" She was like, "You have to stand," because apparently they take it really, really seriously in the cinema in Thailand. If you do not stand when the picture of the king comes up and the national anthem plays. So
that's it.
Terminator: Dark Fate. Sharon, do you want to kick off? And very quickly, I think we will have about 5 minutes of film this week. So, but very quickly, tell us what this film's all about.
Okay. Terminator Dark Fate makes the assumption that only 2 films in the Terminator universe exist.
Yep.
The Terminator and Terminator 2, which I forget the subtitle of it. And so
Judgment
basically it takes you the event after Terminator 2. So we've had that the liquidy Terminator comes back and tries to kill Sarah Connor and John Connor again.
The T-1000.
And Arnie's like an old school Terminator model who's been sent out.
The
to kill
T-800.
John Connor. So that's right. I'm not very good at the minutiae. And so this is the situation we're in. So this is basically it's like real time has passed. It's like 20 years or 30 years after the first Terminator film.
Yeah.
We now see a much older Sarah Connor. Life has not been good to her. Events have happened.
Yeah.
And she encounters a new Terminator unit who is after a different target.
Yeah.
And so she has basically become involved with this other target because she has been made aware that whenever a Terminator arrives, she gets these anonymous text messages.
Yeah.
Weird. So she goes to where a Terminator arrives and she tries to get rid of the Terminator units before they can actually latch onto their target in that moment of vulnerability when they first arrive.
Yeah.
So she's aware that there's a Terminator unit has arrived. She doesn't know why, but she knows where. So she turns up, and then she's drawn into this whole new story where there's a Terminator unit trying to pursue a target, and there's another Terminator unit, very much in the second film vein, who is trying to protect the target as well. So you've got these sort of an enhanced human who isn't a Terminator. She's an enhanced human who's sent back to protect the target. And so you have, it sort of mirrors part of what's gone on in the first film, and that gives nods to what happened in the second film.
Yeah.
And then it sort of takes it on in a different direction. It sort of says, okay, these events have happened, this is a new timeline, these are the ripples. You throw a stone into a pond, you have ripples, and you have ripples in time, and you have ripples in the dark fate of the world. So this is one of the ripples that has gone out, and it has a different consequence.
All right. Thank you very much, Sharon. So now, what did we think of the film, Sean?
Okay. What did I think of the film? Well, what can I say? I thought, this looks good. It's going to be a little good. It's just packed full of inconsistency, and my Shawnee radar super spy defense takes over. Well, I mean, I could go on one of a 5-minute rant about, even the car chase at the beginning, right? Where's the consistencies? You've got a thing that's absolutely decimating cars, but when it comes to the main car, it just pushes it. You know what I mean? Instead of and you got all. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, let's have some consistency here. What this thing's doing, and then all of a sudden, it's not doing the same thing. It was a bit like the Silence, where the things were really, really fast and really bad, and then they had to try and hack into the car, and it took them like 20 years. And so that really, and the plane, don't even go with the plane. Nah. But having said all that, right, and I could go on. The best thing about it was Sarah Connor herself.
Linda Hamilton.
She was brilliant.
Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor.
Linda Hamilton, spot on, absolutely brilliant, and wow, that was enjoyable. So although I can moan, I might be a bit forgiving of it, but because it was quite fun. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, oh come on, let's have some. That plane.
If you're going to have rules.
Yeah, if you're going to have rules, there's got to be. There's no consistency there,
Okay.
But even pardon?
I was going to say, Sean, but the funny thing is, I reckon that if you went back to Terminator 2 and watched it again, you would see the same inconsistencies.
Yeah, it's one of these things. I loved Terminator. I loved Terminator 1.
Terminator 1 was class.
It was like
super class.
one of my teenage films. So I watched it at the right time, and I just thought it was fantastic. But I didn't love Terminator 2. I didn't like the way the story had to go. To me, that wasn't linear. But I didn't think those characters would grow in that way. So I didn't love 2. So for me, I was sort of, and having all these other reinventions of the Terminator franchise, I was sort of over Terminator a little bit.
Yeah.
So I did watch it. I did think there were good points about it. I thought the attempts at humour were probably ill-judged, and they just weren't very funny.
Oh yeah.
Especially with Arnie's Terminator when he appears again and he's like talking about curtains. To me, I just thought it's an attempt at humour. It didn't really work. So some of the things that I think we're supposed to get alongside and emphasise with, it didn't work for me. So I thought it was okay, but I didn't love it.
Okay. I actually thought that Arnie in the film, I thought that there were things that they did with him that I thought were actually quite funny. And
Oh, right.
yeah, but the thing about the film as well is, bearing in mind that the last Terminator film that we got was Terminator Genesis, or whatever you call it, which was a film that we had a massive sort of like rant about, and we just totally pretty much destroyed, because as we said on that film, I thought it started off well, and then it just sort of like rotted little by little as we went along, until at the end of the film you were like, oh, please just make it stop, please make it stop.
That's what I thought. That was my feelings, Toes.
Yeah. And so with this one, with Dark Fate, I mean, to be honest with you, every single trailer that's been released has not filled me with hope. I've thought, this doesn't look good, I don't know what they're doing here. So I went to watch this film with a lot of trepidation. And I think I said something on Facebook afterwards. I was like, it feels like every other Terminator movie has felt like somebody has heard of the idea of Terminator and has come up with a bad karaoke version of it. And this one, I feel like, is someone who actually understands what's at the heart of the Terminator franchise. The problem with it is that it ends up being a bit samey. It's kind of like, it follows the format of a Terminator film. Is that, okay, two people are sent back in time from the future, one to protect this person, one to try and kill this person. They try and kill this person, it ends up being this relentless chase, and then there is a sacrifice made to sort of save this person and to save a sort of version of the future. And that's pretty much what it does. And so I was kind of like, okay, that is the format of a Terminator movie. I don't think they've tried to do other formats with it, and it hasn't quite worked. And
yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, Toes.
Yeah. No, carry on.
Yeah, I was just thinking. The first, like Sharon picked up on this point. Like at the start of the movie, it was like the first one, and it was like the second one with the chasers. So it was exactly the same, and it was almost trying to be the same. It was like, I reckon that he's trying to reboot it to maybe a new audience, a bit like Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where instead of having a Death Star, you had a Death Planet.
Yeah.
But basically, it was the same as Episode 4, I thought.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
And
Because it was just
They've
basically the
tried
same.
to mirror it to draw in.
It's kind of
a nod for the old fans and a draw in the new fans.
It's almost, it's almost like they're essentially saying, okay, guys, we know that the other ones have messed up, but let's just let you know, yes, this is the Terminator. We do know what it is that we have here. But at the same time, I thought it was different enough from Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 to be its own thing. Like, there were a couple of things that I was saying about, I like the way that they bring Sarah Connor back into it. I think Linda Hamilton is excellent in this film.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie Davis as Grace, the new the new Protector. She's not a Terminator, but she's an enhanced human. I thought she was awesome. I thought she was absolutely kick-ass. I really, really liked her. I liked the characterization. I liked the interplay. And it's obviously a film that's been made for, and like another film that we've watched this week, it's obviously a film that's been made for nowadays, because you have it's a female-led cast. It's not so much about the men running around. It's a female-led cast. It's almost kind of like, there's a bits of it where I was thinking this could be called Terminator, Me Too. And but I really like the film, even though there were some bits I was like, okay, that's recycling that. That's okay. Obviously it's a Terminator film, so obviously that's going to happen. And I think the film itself is almost a commentary on the fact that the central theme of the Terminator is a little bit stupid. Because if you can go back in time, and if you can change things, you just keep sending back robots. One fails, you just send another one back. One fails, you just keep sending them back and sending them back and sending them back. And it's almost as if like the film almost sort of acknowledges that. Like, okay, cool, so this is finished, but what's going to happen? Next week, so we finish all this stuff today. Don't worry, tomorrow there's going to be another Terminator going to try and kill us. And I think that's a problem that is inherent in the center of the Terminator franchise and the way the Terminator franchise works, that it's just that, well, when's it going to end? It's never going to end because you've set up a world in which you can travel back in time and change your present by changing the past. And
well, that's why I think that that's why I'm saying that I think it's a reboot, because they're hoping to get a whole new audience, perhaps a younger audience. Because I mean, this has got a lot of possibilities. It can go a lot of places, can't it?
Yeah,
it
can
do.
do.
They can. It's just left it open for a whole new idea, really.
Yeah, it could go to a whole bunch of places, and that's the problem I have. The problem I have is that, okay, it's all well and good, but essentially you've set up a world in which the same thing is going to keep happening over and over and over again, and there's nothing to stop it. So it's a little bit of a problem for the franchise, which I mean, like, so okay, this film's finished, but even the way that they deal with the end of Terminator 2 in this film, it makes me think, well, it's never going to end. It's just going to keep going forever. There's no stopping it. It's a bit like one of those.
That's time travel. That's time travel for you.
Well, it's a version of time travel, which, like, for instance, it's a version of time travel that I don't particularly agree with. It's a movie time travel thing. It's a Back to the Future type of time travel. I think it's different from like a 12 Monkeys time travel, where it's like something has happened, it has happened. You can't change it. It has happened. But having said that, I would give it 4 out of 5. But I really don't know where they can go with this franchise. I don't know where else they can go with it.
Okay.
I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I would say just purely for the fact that it's. I mean, although I didn't hate it and I thought it was quite enjoyable, I did have few issues with it, so I'll give it a 3-star as well. For me.
Okay,
it's
cool.
A 3-star.
So we're gonna go with 3.5. Oh my god! And we have half an hour, and we have 7 films to talk about.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So we better be quicker then, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, I can go through mine pretty quick, as you know, Toes. So.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Cool.
You know.
All right. Let's go over to. Okay, let's talk about the big hitters, because it's getting to the point where with Netflix and cinema, so each week we have a premiere in the cinema, and almost every week Netflix is now bringing out a big hitter or something that you have to talk about. And Sharon, you have 2 things that you saw that are being talked about, like, oh yeah, you have to talk about this. So let's talk about The King.
The King.
Yes.
Yeah, The King is basically a retelling of Shakespeare's Henry V.
Yep.
It looks at young Prince Hal and his mate Falstaff, and looks at how Prince Hal became Henry V of England, and how he carries on this long-running feud, 100 Years' War, with the French, that culminates in the Battle of Agincourt. So it touches on all the same points as you had in Henry V. You've got the young Hal sort of roistering about and messing around. He encounters Henry Hotspur on the battlefield, and so where he sort of tests his manhood. He's sort of seen as this sort of ne'er-do-well who's not going to inherit the throne. His father, Henry IV, Henry Bolingbroke, decides that he's going to favour his younger son to inherit rather than Henry.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen because his younger brother is then killed in battle.
Yeah.
Another battle with the Welsh. And so young Hal becomes Henry V of England.
Okay.
And through sort of political machinations and through dynastic, rivalry, he ends up at war with France, and then you see it all played out on the field of Agincourt, where he goes up against the Dauphin of France, who's played by Robert Pattinson in this film.
Yeah.
Quite humorously, quite over the top, but does it well.
Yeah.
This French fop, and you see them, this sort of the two squaring off against the battlefield of the mud and the rain and the slaughter of Agincourt.
Yeah.
And so it's if you know you're Henry V, then there's no surprises here. But yes, it's done in a
different way, in a more
way.
So not Shakespearean language.
It's not. It's modern language,
modern
and
language.
He's like a Henry V for a new generation.
Can I ask you what are the battle scenes like, and are they very long, or are they?
They're not long. They're not as deep, and I don't think they have followed the battle plan as strictly as they've.
No.
They've hit on a couple of touch points of it, but some of the events, like killing of all the French prisoners, they haven't done that as part of the battle. They've done that as like an afterthought. Oh, they kill them all.
But what I mean is compared to, like, say, the Lord of the Rings battles.
Oh yeah, they have done. I think they've done it. They've tried to make it realistic. That it's a melee. It's chaotic. It's violent. People are falling over in the mud, and they can't get up because of the armour. Right. That people are scrapping and you can't tell friend from foe because everyone looks alike when they're covered in mud and hacking at each other with swords, and that the people who die, it's by mischance as much as anything else. It's not because the better soldier has won. It's because you stood on a bit of grass rather than on a bit of slippery mud. Yeah. So you do see like this sort of the fickle finger of fate saying like, okay, you slip and fall, you die.
Yeah, because
and so you see the chaos of this, what a melee would be in this sort of medieval battlefield.
Because
it's very well done, and you see the armour that they're weighted down. They're like got chainmail, they've got plate armour, they're carrying these long swords, and this stuff weighs pounds and pounds and pounds. So they don't move fast, and the horses have got knights in armour on them, and they're armoured. So the horses don't gallop along the field, So the battlefields they've tried to do them as realistic as possible.
Cool. So, but are they good?
They're good, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, because I saw the trailer for this and it looked a little bit like Shakespeare given sort of modernish language and getting a bit of the Game of Thrones treatment.
Yeah, not so much the Game of Thrones. I think they've tried to tone it. They haven't gone for the sex and violence in the same way. The violence is quite restrained, realistically.
Oh, really?
So people. Yeah, there is violence in it, but you can see how that when you're fighting a knight who's wearing armour, your vulnerabilities are your neck, your armpits, and your groin.
Yeah.
And so you see them like stabbing at each other, trying to stab each other in the armpits. It's not these great big sword battles, and it is sort of grim and dirty and unpleasant because they're looking for those weak spots in their armour.
Yeah.
Which is these sort of three basically key areas or the back of the knee. Where you're not armoured. So the fighting is not glamorised, really. It's quite gritty. And there's no sort of sex in it or nudity or... it's inferred when you see him sort of like hanging around with prostitutes and stuff. You don't see any nudity or anything. So it's more, I think, more political than I think it is sort of, populist.
Oh.
But I thought it was done very well. It reminded me in some ways of the Outlaw King, the Robert Bruce.
I was wondering about that.
I didn't mind that too much.
Yeah, I think they saw how successful that was and thought, we can do this. We can do real historical drama without sort of really watering down the history too much. They've done a little bit of smoothing out and creating like a baddie. Whereas history is a bit murky about the causes and the effects of different things. So I think they've done it very well. I think if you like the Outlaw King, then you would certainly like the King. Timothy Chalamet makes a very good Henry V, I thought. To me, he looked very thin, but I thought in those days they weren't all beefed up and muscular. A lot of these people were, compared to us, with our modern nutrition, they were actually quite slim. When you see suits of armour, you think, I couldn't get into one of those. And this was for an adult man who'd been training all his life, So you see that these men weren't huge. So at one point I thought, he's very thin, isn't he? But then I think that's probably more historically accurate than you see these beefed up, muscled people because they just didn't have the nutrition for that.
Oh, okay, so cool. So with that, obviously your Henry V. Your historical epics and everything like that, and you said you quite enjoyed it. What were the performances like? I know you've mentioned Timothy Chalamet. There's Robert Pattinson. I know there's Sean Harris.
Sean Harris was very
Sean
good.
Harris,
Sean Harris. It's only naturally he's good in everything he does. He plays such a nasty character. He
plays Dorset in this, so he does it very well.
Yeah. Sure.
And his things, I remember him in Harry Brown.
He's William. He's William.
I remember him in Harry Brown.
He
plays,
it's like what?
Play particularly nice characters.
Some of them they're all beardy, so it's like, is he beardy number 1 or is he beardy number 2? And you lose track of who the actual, which historical actors they are, because he looks very similar to another actor, like this sort of. One of the Northumberlands. The Northumberland and Dorset and this guy called William, they all look very similar, and you're thinking, okay, are you the Duke of Northumberland or are you the Duke of Dorset? So you do lose who they are a little bit, but he sort of carries it. He does come into his own, Sean Harris, through this. Okay.
For anybody who's listening to this and doesn't know, Sean of our podcast, his full name is Sean Harris. So
indeed.
So I feel like you have a kid just threw a paper aeroplane at me.
Yeah. Phew.
That was a very
actually, I'd like to meet him. I'd like to meet him because I think he is a good actor.
Yeah.
I think he's a great actor.
And actually, Ben Mendelsohn is quite good as Henry Bolingbroke.
I like him as well.
He can go over the top a bit, and this he did play that. he's a weak man, a weak king,
Yeah.
but you can see how he got where he was by being crafty and by doing what he had to do to get there. So he played Henry IV, Henry Bolingbroke, very well, I thought. That's Ben Mendelsohn. So it's a mixed cast of internationals.
Yeah.
But there weren't too many shonky accents. I mean, Robert Pattinson's accent was like at the limit of what we'd say was real French. But French sounded differently in those days anyway, because everyone spoke the language differently.
Yeah. Apparently, most Scottish monarchs sounded French anyway. So how many stars would you give that?
I would give it 4 stars. And I would give 4 stars as well to Joel Edgerton, who plays Falstaff. I thought he was excellent in it, actually. He had a spot-on northern accent. His physical performance was just excellent. So I would give it 4 stars, and I'd give some of the performances 4 stars as well.
You know, I think Joel Edgerton is actually massively underrated.
Oh, he completely transforms in this. I mean, he is Falstaff. He is what you'd imagine Falstaff would be.
Okay. All right. And okay, I think we might have to do separate 5-minute sort of like talks about each of these films. If there was anything else you wanted to say about that, Sharon, we might have to put it into a separate thing and move on. So let's go back to cinema. And Sean, we're going to go with you. Zombieland, double tap.
Zombieland double tap. Yeah.
So this is a sequel to the first Zombieland movie, which I quite liked. But the problem is that I had trouble finding this anywhere playing around me. It was playing at weird times. But go ahead. What was it about?
Right.
What was it? Look,
Okay.
We know what it's about.
Zombieland.
What was it like?
Zombieland, basically what it says on the tin, it's like a phantom going around, clashes with zombies, in different situations at different times and different characters popping in and out.
Yeah.
I think the first one's very overrated myself.
Ooh.
I mean, I know people love it, but I think the first one's very, very overrated. But then I think Shaun of the Dead is overrated too.
What the hell, Sean?
I know, sorry guys. I mean, they're good films, don't get me wrong, they're good films, but they're overrated. They are so overrated, in my opinion, for me anyway. But anyway, so we got this Zombieland double tap. So it's the same characters. You got Woody Harrelson, and his little group of cronies.
Columbus,
Tallahassee, all named.
Wichita, Little Rock.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're living in the White House for a little while, and then Little Rock decides, or I mean, I've forgotten who the cast are, but anyway,
Abigail Breslin.
She's getting fed up, so must be Little Rock. She decides she's going to go off, and they meet this stoner hippie dude, and so she goes off, and the others get worried and decide they're going to go and try and find her, and they go up. They go, oh, we know where we're going to go. Let's go to Gracelands. Let's go to Elvis's place. So they go there, and then they go They go to this other place called. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, Sean, I'm going to tell you something. This is a film that I'm looking at and I'm thinking that the plot of this film is inconsequential. This film should not be about a plot whatsoever. Because
there's no plot to this movie.
No.
There's no, which is why I can talk about it really good, because I don't like talking plots. I just like what's the action.
Because for me, I think that this film should just be about the characters and hanging out with these characters and watching them kill zombies. That's about it.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of Woody Harrelson anyway.
Which is
so
what,
I think the only thing he's been really good in was 3 billboards outside
Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah. But the rest, I cannot stand the guy personally. He's one of my Johnny Gucci or whatever his name. What's the name?
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci and all them. He's one of those.
If you're going to hate the guy, at least get his name right.
Yeah. Stanley Tucci. And anyway, so let's. I mean, I'm joshing a little bit here, obviously. I'm not a major fan of his. Jesse Eisenberg, I quite like in some stuff, but he plays Jesse Eisenberg. I haven't seen him play any.
He's still playing the original Columbus, isn't he? He's Columbus in everything he does, basically.
Yeah.
There is a little bit in this movie where they do meet a couple of people that are very similar to them, and they're like, oh you've got rules as well. Well, yeah, I got rules. Yeah, I don't call them rules. I call them, Anyway, so you got a little bit that they're. So yeah, it's basically a lot of characters getting into silly situations and doing
zombie
stuff,
slaying things.
Oh,
so
is there the humour? Is there a cameo? Is there a hidden cameo like there was in the first one?
After credit scene.
Oh, was there? Okay.
And that I thought, it's going to redeem itself, and then that fell on its ass.
Oh.
It was like, sorry about that, sorry language, but it started off really, really good. We thought, because it does, you've got after credit thing where before the zombie apocalypse happens, or it happens at that particular time. Someone's getting interviewed, and then they, So no, I didn't like this movie.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh.
I didn't like this movie at all.
All right. So how many stars would you give it?
I mean, one for the fact that I was sort of wanting to get out, wanting to get away, and everything like that, but just wasn't very good. But I'm trying to weigh it up because I don't want to be too harsh on it because I don't think it. I think it's just going to have to be a 3, really. I think I'm going to have to give this a 3 and at the bottom end. But
if it's on a decent time, I do intend to see it because I did like Zombieland.
Yeah, I thought this was, it was just trying to cash in
Though
on the first
one of my friends says, shout out quickly to Rachel, my friend who does listen to this our show.
Oh yeah,
and she has seen Zombieland too as well, and she said it wasn't as good as the first one. That was her assessment, basically.
Yeah.
Wait.
I mean it's not as good. It's definitely not as good as the first one, and I didn't particularly think there was anything special, anything different, or anything exciting in it.
Okay, but I think Sharon just buried the lead there. We have another listener.
We have another listener, yeah.
Ooh.
Rachel. Hey, Rachel.
Hello,
In
Rachel.
Cows.
How are you?
Hi, Rach.
How you doing, Rachel?
How you doing there?
Yeah, as I said, like, okay, essentially for me, right, anytime anybody shows us any kind of attention, I'm like, oh, cool, get them on the show. Get them on the show. So Rachel, whether you want to or not, we are coming for you. Right. All right, cool. Now let's go back to what we just did cinema. So we're gonna go back to thing. Okay, I'm gonna talk about American Housewife really, really quickly. So American Housewife is it's a sitcom, but like how nowadays sitcoms are being made in such a way that it's not so much the canned laughter and the live studio audience, but it's like a single camera thing and all that kind of stuff. Things like Scrubs and all that. And American Housewife is in that. And I've seen.
Have you seen? There's like Toes, and there's like 78 episodes
of what American Housewife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the first two
right?
seasons.
Am I seeing that right? Oh, right. You've seen the first two seasons.
I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Yeah,
each
4 seasons.
Each season, there's 4 seasons. I thought there were only 3. But each season is about 24 episodes. So yeah, that sounds roundabout right. But it's half an hour, so it's less than half an hour. It's about 20 something minutes because of American adverts and all that. So it zooms by pretty quickly. And it stars an actress called Katie Mixon, who I have loved in things for ages. I think she was brilliant in a show called Eastbound and Down. She was in Mike and Molly. She played Molly's sister, and in this she plays. She lives in in an area called Westport, Connecticut, which is famous for being the place where Paul Newman lives or lived. And it's very, if you think Stepford Wives. So if you think like Stepford Wives, the whole area that she lives in is very, very Stepford Wivesy. In that, like, all the moms look the same. They're all really, really skinny. They're all blonde, all that kind of stuff. And she isn't that kind of shape. So the first episode, it kicks off with her being worried because her neighbor, who she calls Fat Pam, is moving out of the house. And if she's moving out of the house, it means that she's going to become the second fattest housewife in Westport. But it goes up with that. It seems to start off with body image. But I actually find it really, really hard to review comedies, especially like sitcoms, because without talking about the jokes, which ruins them, it's hard to actually say what it's about. But I really, really like it. I think it's really, really true to sort of like a sort of family dynamic where I think it's really true to a family dynamic where you have like, a mom, dad, 3 kids, and it's all about her trying to make sure her kids are raised right. And you have one of the kids is the youngest kid is Julia Butters, who you might not know the name, but Sean, I know that you know the character because she played the little girl Trudy in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Oh yes, the one who
she
was a Western actor. Yeah.
Yes.
in the Western film.
Miss Pumpkin.
Yes.
Puss Pumpkin. Yeah, don't call me that. Yeah.
Don't call me Pumpkin Puss.
That's it, Pumpkin Puss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, she plays the young one who has a one amazing scene with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's arguable that she steals that scene from him. And she plays the youngest kid who has like sort of learning difficulties, and apparently I think this is the show that Tarantino saw her in and went ooh, and then he wrote that character into the film of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But
oh wow,
yeah, but the American Housewife is really, really funny. All I can say is really funny. I think Katie Mixon is a brilliant comedic actress. I think that me and my wife have been walking around because she's from Florida, and so she says things like again. So where every word has a couple more syllables in it and stuff like that. And we've been walking around just trying to do Katie Mixon impressions. I really, really enjoyed the show. I would give American Housewives seasons 1 and 2 4 stars.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So moving on, let's see. What else do we have? Okay, cool. Cool. This thing has just refreshed. Okay, so moving on, we now have. Let's go back to cinema and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Sharon, take us away.
Yeah, this, as you'd guess, this is a sequel to the earlier Disney film Maleficent, which was they've been reimagining classic Disney cartoons with live actors, as it were. So Angelina Jolie personified Maleficent in the first film, and so she's back as Maleficent in this film, along with much of the other original cast. And this is basically sort of trying to find a little bit about Maleficent's backstory, where she is, what sort of creature she is, where she comes from. And there's a war between the humans and the Fae, once again, where they look at the Fae and they just see evil rather than different, and different equates to evil in this world to some people. Yeah. So there are obviously hidden meanings to some of that, and so you get to see, where Maleficent comes from, what her species is like, and a little bit about her origin story. Yep. And you also get to see how a war with the Fae, how it would be conducted if you were bent on killing all the creatures out there in the forest. Yep. So you see the tables almost turns. It's not like the Fae aren't the bad guys in this, and the Maleficent is not like, she's called Mistress of Evil, but you could say it's almost like an ironic title that she isn't the evil one in this. She's the one who's trying to defend her people and she becomes. Yeah.
That's what I didn't like. That's what I don't like about it. That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah. So if you like your Maleficent as
pure evil, basically.
Pure evil, then this is not that Maleficent. No, I didn't it's because they're saying if you look at her appearance, she looks like the Mistress of Evil, but actually, if you look into her heart, she's not, evil to the core. Oh. There is a beating heart under that sort of ridged and stony chest.
And those horns, those magnificent
and
horns.
Those magnificent, maleficent horns. So yes, this is a follow-on to Sleeping Beauty, basically. Yeah. You have nods to the princesses and the wimpy prince, and you have nods to the fairies and the creatures of the forests, and a real evil queen, shall we say. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a Disney made live, so I probably would enjoy it more than I would of an animated version. So to me, I found it as an enjoyable romp. I think it. Yeah, I liked it.
I mean,
I thought it was a fun.
I did contemplate seeing it. I did think about it because I really love Maleficent, but there was other stuff around, so it would be further down.
Yeah.
But I will catch up with it. I didn't really enjoy the first one.
No, I think we saw that together, didn't we? That one.
I have to admit. So I was going to say, I have to admit, I mean, this was on I think it was last week, and it was the main thing playing at the cinema. And there were probably about 2 or 3 times that I got myself when I went, what's on the cinema? and I just couldn't be bothered to watch it. I still haven't seen the first one, but I know that it's kind of like a reimagining. Like they almost do like a Wicked thing, where it's like, you think you knew Sleeping Beauty? But how about this? How about Maleficent wasn't really the bad person who turned into a dragon at the end of the movie? Oh no, she was misunderstood. And I think, Sean, a bit like you, there's a bit of me that goes, why do you have to try and turn a bad guy into a good guy?
Yeah, I know.
She's not evil, she's misunderstood, and that's basically what the whole thing is.
Yeah. And
I can see flaws in it. I mean, I can see flaws in their whole argument that, there's no such thing as evil, it's just people are different. And I think, no, there is actually evil in this world, and we know it is. But
have you seen the cartoon version, Sharon?
I have, yes.
Or I should say animated version.
The animated one, yes. Sorry, that's me saying cartoons. Yeah. I'm not trying to downplay its art form. No. It's an animated, it's an art form. So
it's an animated film. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's animated, so it's rubbish.
Yeah, they just suck. Yeah. But that's just my humble opinion.
Okay, so it sounds
there
like
are flaws in it, and I think some of the characters are thinking, this is very non-PC, but I want to say, just man up.
Yeah.
Because some of them, you think, do you have to be so nice and Prince Charming-y? Just,
Well, I'll tell you one thing, though, because so this has Michelle Pfeiffer playing an evil queen, and I am always up for Michelle Pfeiffer playing an evil queen, as she did in Stardust. Awesome. I am always up for that. Michelle Pfeiffer. Actually, I'm up for Michelle Pfeiffer in anything. The woman's just awesome.
Yeah, this is very much like a Stardust type character for her, where she is, she's loving it, and you can tell that she's loving being this. She is the Mistress of Evil.
I
of
think evil
anyone in the
characters so much. There's so much more about them. I mean, I really liked. Was it called? Was the one? Was it called Mirror Mirror? Or was it Snow White and the Huntsman?
There's Snow White and the Huntsman.
Snow White and the
That's the
Oh,
one with
Charlize Theron.
Charlize
Theron was
just the
awesome.
best.
Was
Yeah.
awesome
was
in that.
superb.
The film
Well,
was
she
rubbish,
made
but she
Snow
was
White
awesome.
feel like going, oh,
Yeah.
for goodness sake,
That's it. Yeah.
be naive. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it, and I thought it was just. And sort of fairy tales are quite popular anyway. They're like novels and all sorts of things. People are like re-examining fairy tales for their hidden meaning and trying to reinvent them a little bit, not just make them all about the girl being rescued by the hero. There's about women empowering women type thing. So but if you take away all that sort of the subtext, I just enjoyed it for quite a fun romp with nice pretty dresses.
I've heard a lot.
Pride and Prejudice all over again.
You see. Now this is the thing, right? I actually want to see this film for the dresses because you are the second person I've heard reviewing this film that's gone, oh my god, the dresses. And I want to see what's so great about these dresses. So how many stars would you give it?
I'd give it a 4. Actually, I enjoyed it.
Oh, a 4. Nice. That is good. Oh, a 4 for Angelina Jolie's cheekbones. And Sharon, if you're not out of breath, if you could go back to actually no, I'll take it. We'll go back to Netflix. So this is on Now TV, and I saw a TV show called Sharp Objects. Now this is an adaptation of a book called Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, who is best known for writing Gone Girl. So she wrote Gone Girl, and she adapted that to the screen as well. So she's best known for writing Gone Girl, and it's essentially one of these things about, like, you have a reporter, and then the reporter is sent back to the town that she grew up in because 2 girls have gone missing in the last sort of like 8 months, and have gone missing then turned up dead. And she's sent there by her editor to go write about this town, go write about all this kind of stuff. And as she goes back, you realize that she has demons of her own. And the sharp objects of the title is because she's actually, from a very young age, she's been self-harming. So she cuts herself with sharp objects. And there's bits in it where she takes her shirt off and you just see her entire body is just riddled with all these scars. And she's written all these things about herself and how she thinks and the sort of negative thing that she has with her. So it's essentially a show about her fighting through her own demons while trying to get to the bottom of this mystery of who's actually in this small town killing off this girls. You get to meet her mum, who is essentially the richest woman in the town and sort of like a big massive socialite, but you get the idea that some of her issues might have stemmed from her relationship with her mum, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit sort of like, this sort of like, I think it's called, how do you pronounce it, grand guignol or something like that, or melodrama, and it's all kind of like, ooh, and it's all heightened and gothic, and so like, South American gothic and all that, and everything's up on the plantation and all that. And this is a very, very, very slow burn of a show. It's kind of like, if you actually broke down what happens in it, what happens in the show, it could probably end up to be like, an episode of CSI. But you can see that the director who did this was trying to do something arty about it, and he was trying to do something that sort of like steeped you in the town that it's in, and it's all about small town Americana and all that kind of how everybody's in everybody else's business and how people don't really leave, and even if you leave the town, you've done well for yourself. It stars Amy Adams as the main character, has Patricia Clarkson, who is awesome. Amy Adams is really, really good.
She's always good.
Yeah.
Patricia Clarkson is class.
Patricia Clarkson is class. I feel like the character is a little bit one note, and she gives it like, she sort of like, wiggles around the one note. So she sort of is essentially, if you give Beyonce one note to sing, she'll warble all over and that and make the one note something a bit more than just one note. I think that's what Patricia Clarkson does with her character in this. And do you remember when we watched It Chapter 1?
Yeah.
And we said that the girl who played the girl in It Chapter 1, Sophia Lillis, we were like, oh my god, when they make the second one, Amy Adams should play her. Amy Adams, because she looks exactly like Amy Adams. So apparently the reason why that didn't happen is because of this show. Because in this show, the young version of the girl Camille is played by Sophia Lillis. And there's bits where they cut from like, the young Camille to the older Camille played by Amy Adams, and it's just mind-boggling how much they look alike. It is mind-boggling. So I know it's on Now TV until Christmas. I And now, Sean, you talk about things being overrated. Now, this is a show that I do think was overrated. It won awards and people were raving about it last year. It was one of the big things at the Emmys. So I was like, oh, I've got to watch this thing. I watched the first episode like probably about 4 months ago. And it took me until now to watch the rest of it because I was just kind of, this is a bit slow. And I watched the rest of it and I was like, oh my God. And it does one of those endings where it's supposed to be like a twisty-turny ending, but it left me feeling majorly uncomfortable and unsatisfied, which might have been the point because it's directed by Jean-Marc Vallée, and I think he does things like that. It might have been the point. I think he's the same guy who did the Dallas Buyers Club. But so I would give this 3 out of 5. I think it's a good mystery. It's got good performances. It's got a good sense of location. But my God, I was sitting there going, please get on with it. It's like, get on with it. Just move it. Stop being so glacial. What the heck is up with you? But yeah, so I would give that a 3 out of 5. And so now we go back to a final film in cinema. I mean, I've also seen The Aeronauts, but I'm going to push The Aeronauts until next week. And we're going to talk about a final film in cinema. And Sean, you saw this, and that was Dr. Sleep.
Yep, Dr. Sleep. Yep. So this is like it is a sequel to The Shining, basically.
Yeah.
And this is the story about the young lad that
He was on the bicycle pedaling down there.
Yeah, on the bicycle pedaling down. He's become an alcoholic to try and stop The Shining, to try and stop his thoughts and all that. And then he something just tells him he's got to go to this town, and he goes to this town, and a guy says to him, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't know what to do." And this guy's part of an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, and tries to help him out and says, "Right, gets him a room and all this." And he's coming round to Shine, and he gets this like call from someone. He starts getting the shine, and as he becomes more and more lucid, this thing happens. And there's these group of people that basically they're like a group, and they find these people that shine, the people that have got a chance, and they kidnap them and they torture them and do horrible things, and then they feed off their energy because they've got a lot of energy. Yeah. So they have like a big feast, and basically they obviously find this little girl and she wants help, so he goes to help her, and it's there is really lots of nods to The Shining, and it's all. As I say, it's basically a sequel. It's about basically what's happened to the little lad as he's grown up. I wasn't sure how this was going to go.
Yep.
But it was surprisingly good. It was surprisingly good, actually. And it was quite exciting, and it was quite what they call it when it's nail biting, quite tense.
Yep.
So there was a lot of tension in it, and the characters played, and they were really nasty. These people that fed on the Shinings. These people are really, really nasty.
So
obviously,
Stephen King knows how to do nasty, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And but obviously, there are other nasty things that feed on things that feed on Shinings. You know what I mean? Oh. So it all becomes, and this is where it all happens, and it ends up back at the hotel. So
is this a sequel to the book The Shining, or is this a sequel to the Kubrick film?
I haven't read the book The Shining, so I don't know.
So it sort of follows on from the film.
It's the film, yeah.
No, Sharon. Sharon, if I may, it has been well publicized that this is a sequel to both the book and the film.
Okay.
Right, okay.
So because obviously Stephen King famously hates the film The Shining. Even
though
people
say, you can't ignore the film because it's such a big presence, can you?
And the director of this, Mike Flanagan, who is a guy who he has quite a good relationship with Stephen King. He adapted the film Gerald's Game for Netflix. And by the way, if you can, watch Gerald's Game. Awesome film. And so he has quite a good working relationship with him. And apparently he went to Stephen King going, okay, look, I know that you don't like the film, but we have to pay attention to the film. Apparently even Stephen King is quite happy with this being a sequel to both the book and the film.
So that's good. That's good. As I say, I haven't read the book. Have you read the book?
No, I've only read a few Stephen King's.
Don't strike me as your sort of author.
I have read some of his work, but that's not one I have read.
Okay. Yeah. So this. I mean, it's. The story's quite good about these different little factions, as I say, about things that feed on things that chase the Shinings, or people have got a gift or whatever like that.
Okay.
And
so Sean,
they can get all the energy. Yep. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say,
we're running out of time.
Yeah,
okay. I'll give you a star rating.
Yep.
Okay, star rating. I'm going to give this one a 4. I enjoyed this one.
All right, cool.
Better than I thought. I think what it was because I think I was going to go in disappointed, and I quite enjoyed it.
Because you're a horror fan and you're a Kubrick fan as well.
Yeah. Oh, yes. There was one bit I haven't jumped for years. There was
Decades.
one
No
moment in this when it was like, oh.
Yes.
So it made
That got a star on its own.
Yeah, that's a star on its own for making me jump the once.
A film made you jump, Sean.
A film made me jump.
Oh my
Only a
God.
little jump. Only not a major jump.
This is a momentous day.
Yeah,
This is a momentous
indeed, yeah.
day. Oh my God. I think Mike Flanagan, forget about the Oscars. That's it. You have made Sean jump. That is it. You have achieved in your filmmaking career. You can retire
Only mild
a happy
jump.
man.
Only mild jump.
It doesn't matter,
Like,
man.
yeah,
It doesn't matter.
jump
It's a
nevertheless.
jump.
Like, oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. So obviously the first one is spoken about as a horror classic. You're a horror fan, but how would you say this sort of like works in comparison to the first one?
Different film, different type of film, really. Mm-hmm. It was more, I think, what I'd call more mainstream, a bit like probably in your modes of.
In The Shining, you don't know what's real and what's not.
No,
do you?
no,
You're never quite sure what is really happening.
That's it. But this is more of a, I would say, like those Twilight-y films with the different factions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With like the Voltari or whatever they're called and the others and all that. So this is a bit more. There's a little bit more action. There's a little bit more
world.
It's not so arty farty, and it's not it's a good film.
A bit more straightforward horror.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you haven't seen The Shining, you could go and watch this, and it wouldn't.
You'd know enough.
You'd know enough. Like some films, it's like you said to me, that El Camino, you need to have seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah, you do.
But this you don't need to have seen The Shining to get the movie.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and now we go back to Netflix for the final thing. And by the way, guys, I have absolutely no idea who's ahead right now. I'm not, but we're going to go back to Netflix for Unbelievable, and this is. Okay, Sean, I know that each time you hear that, it makes you want to sing that song. But from what from what I hear, Sharon, nothing could be further from the tone of this TV show.
No, this is very much like a true detective type television show. The Unbelievable, it starts basically with the aftermath of a stranger rape, where a young woman has been living in sort of protected housing, as it were. She's been growing up in foster care. She's now living independently. So they've got guardians who live in the house. And one morning she reports basically that a stranger broke into her room and tied her up and raped her. And then he left her tied up, and she got herself free. She called her family to come and help her, and then they called the police. And so it starts off with this horrible incident, which we don't see. It's suggested more than seen, which is a good thing in my opinion. And then as her story progresses, basically, the police begin to doubt her story. They begin to doubt that she's telling the truth. And so over time, she's repeatedly interviewed. She's constantly saying, "Okay, can you just go through what happened with me one more time?" And then another detective is called in and say, "Okay, can you just tell me what happened? Tell me." And then she has to go through it all again. And then the next person comes in. She has to go through it again for the nurses and for the doctors. And so she's exhausted. And certain parts of her story begin to sound inconsistent. Yeah. Because at one point she says, "I was tied up when I went to the phone," and then it's like, "No, I actually got out of my bonds. I wasn't tied up when I got to the phone." They're saying, "Okay, what was it? Were you tied up? Well, you're not tied up. You must know." Yeah. And the more pressures he's put under, the more
flustered
in discrepancies it appears to appear in her account. Yeah. And so eventually she's under so much pressure. She's okay, tell you what, it didn't happen. I made it all up. And they said, "Are you sure?" She goes, "Well, no, it did happen, but I can't go through this anymore." So again, are you lying or are you not lying? Do you say you lied, or are you saying that you don't want to go through this anymore? Yeah. Because that's different things. And so this young girl, she's basically put under such intense pressure that in the end she just says, "You know what? It didn't happen. And I'm prepared to sign a statement to say I lied about the whole lot." And the police are so angry with her that they actually prosecute her for lying to police. Oh. Now, the story then jumps forward a number of years to a different part of the country. And a young student in a student house is tied up a stranger has broken into an apartment, ties her up, rapes her, and one of the aspects of the first rape was that he took photographs of her during the assault, and then this lady reports, I was assaulted, I was raped, he took photographs of me, he tied me up, and he left, leaving no forensic detail. He made a shower, he left no forensic evidence. Blah blah blah, and they deal with it completely differently. I mean, it's a female detective, which can make a difference. The witness is very credible. She's from a good background. She's not from a troubled background like our first victim, and she gives a good statement. It's good evidentially, and they have no question that this is not a reliable case.
Yeah.
And so this one detective starts looking at that, saying, this man who's done this is not a first-time offender. And so she just tries to basically see if she can link it to any other offences. And she goes to outside of her police district, and she becomes aware of another case in another state, and in another police district. So they're not linked because they're being investigated by different police forces. And then they broaden their investigation more, and they keep finding more victims in different police areas. And so basically they end up with this chain of offences, and the chain goes back to our very first victim. And this is over like 8 episodes. You see them uncovering the truth of what went on, and then tracing back to our original victim. I mean, but basically they're saying if that investigation had been handled differently, they could have caught this offender at the early stage of investigation. So that's the story. It's a police investigation story based on true events, apparently.
So based on true events. So is it more of is it more of a detective story, or is it more of a kind of like a crusade? Like, well, I mean, I know it's a contentious word to use to say.
It's a bit
to say we need to believe these women or something.
It's a bit of both. There's certainly the detective story, because you don't know. They don't tell you who the bad guy is. You don't find out who this offender is right up until the end of the series. So you are following the trail back to this guy, and you also follow the trail back to our first victim.
All right.
And also, one of the detectives says, people are investigating this, and she's saying, where is the outrage? Where is the outrage that these offences have been happening? And I think that's, to me, is like the key sentence to the whole ties up the whole thing.
The key thesis of the entire show.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've obviously, my policing experience, over 20 years in the policing world. I don't want to give my opinion about police investigations of rapes, because they are very straightforward, but they are the most complicated, difficult crime to investigate and the most difficult crime to prosecute. So I've had experiences from both sides, not as a victim of rape, but as someone who has seen how a police investigation works.
Yeah.
But I've also had a friend who has been the victim of rape. So I know how it works from both sides. And people who have been the victim of rape saying no woman would ever lie about this. But from the police point of view, I know that people do lie about everything.
Yeah.
And so you have that balance of like investigating a crime, but also believing people on when they make a statement. But getting that balance between finding evidence. And so I could see why this first victim was an appalling witness. When I was watching it, I was thinking, you would never ever get that to prosecution. No. She's a really bad witness.
Yeah.
But you understand why she's such a bad witness as you understand her story more and more, and then why the other girl. The offences were identical, but one witness was entirely credible and the other one wasn't. And you could see how it makes such a bearing on how it was investigated. Yeah. So I found it fascinating from a policing point of view, but I also found that the story was actually really quite engrossing. And the performances were,
Toni
really,
Collette,
really
Merritt Weaver, you gotta love them. Toni Collette and Merritt Weaver, you gotta love them. Hello?
So it's really, I was really impressed by it. So I would give nods to the main 3 people who were involved in this. Caitlin Dever, who plays the first rape victim, she was outstanding. Yeah. Toni Collette, who was one of the female detectives who's investigating the crimes, and particularly Merritt Weaver, I thought was very, very good. We know her from, she was in The Walking Dead as Dr. Denise.
She was
in the season 6, I think it was. Yeah. She was very good in that. But she was outstanding as the first detective who started linking up all the offences. Yeah, but I thought it was really, really good drama. Good police procedural, and a good sort of like drama with a cause, almost with a message. So I really rated it. I thought it was very good. Can be quite harrowing at times. I mean, I found I could be quite dispassionate about really hideous crimes of violence because of obviously my job for many years. But I found I was quite moved by certain aspects and made me think again. Because when you become hardened to certain types of crime, you forget sometimes the real human impact of what can happen when people go through these things. So I thought it was a really outstanding film. So I would give it a very high 4.
Ooh, very high 4. So can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool, good stuff. Yeah, because you mentioned Merritt Weaver. The first thing I saw her in was in Nurse Jackie, I've loved everything that she's been in since. I think she's a brilliant underrated actress. All right, cool. So that's that done. And without this is actually quite close this week. And all that's left for us is to tell you who has won this week. Oh, this is quite close because we have Cinema has 3.5, 4, 3, and 4. Netflix has 4, 3, 4, and 4. So there's three sets of identical scores in this. So I think by 0.5 of a point, Netflix just shades it. 0.5 of a star. Netflix just shades it this week. But quite frankly, I'm happy to call that a draw because I give Terminator Dark Fate a 4 anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's plenty of good stuff to watch out there.
Essentially, the winner this week is All of Us.
Yeah, all of us, yes.
Because there were no absolute stinkers this week. All right.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Sean, Sharon, I have missed you guys. It is so great to have you guys back. It's so great to talk to you guys again. And unfortunately,
yeah, we missed you too.
And same, yeah.
We like speaking to your toes.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I have to leg it. And hello again to Rachel. How you doing? Remember that, Rachel?
I'll tell her that.
Well, she should know because she listens.
She's been listening. She'll hear that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Don't tell her, and see if she actually comes and says you something. Then we'll find out if she actually really does listen. Whether she just tells you she does. All right, cool. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week, where I will definitely be talking about the aeronauts. And until then, it's a goodbye from me.
A good night from me.
And a goodbye from me.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye now.